Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I am John Heffernan, Vice President of Policy and External Affairs at MassBio, and I'd like to welcome you to our panel discussion today, Leading the Way, BioPharma Manufacturing in Massachusetts. I'm going to introduce our moderator, and we'll get started. Elisabeth Beck Reynolds is the Executive Director of MIT's Industrial Performance Center, an interdisciplinary research center dedicated to the study of innovation, productivity, and competitiveness. Dr. Reynolds' work focuses on geography of innovation, regional economic growth, and industrial competitiveness. I'd like to welcome Elisabeth Beck Reynolds. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for coming to join us this afternoon. There's a lot of diversion and activity at Bio 2012, and so we appreciate your being here. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so discussing a subject that is fundamental to the success of the biotech industry, and that is biomanufacturing. Perhaps the most complex type of advanced manufacturing that exists. And for that very reason, this industry was pioneered in the state of Massachusetts. For many of you know, who have been here for a while, that the industry grew in the mid-'80s, and part of that growth at that time, process equals product, was the central project of scaling molecules was one of the major challenges. Today, the state is the leading center for mammalian-based production in the world. And we also have the largest academic concentration of centers, institutes, colleges, and universities researching biomanufacturing. We also have a great deal of experience. Over 30 biologics that have been approved were scaled or manufactured here in this state. So for all of these reasons, we have a tremendous amount of experience and expertise in the region. At the same time, as we all know, for all industries, times are changing. Globalization has brought about a lot of opportunities and challenges for the industry. Technological innovations are also upon us, and the region has to adapt to all of these going forward. So today our panel is going to discuss some of those changes and how this region is addressing them and what the opportunities are for them. Before I ask our first round of questions, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their organization or institution's biomanufacturing capabilities, what they're doing specifically in Massachusetts, and why they are in Massachusetts. So why don't I begin at the very end and talk Vin Donovan from Millipore. Vin?
Thank you, Liz. Hello, my name is Vin Donovan. I'm the head of North American and European sales for the BioPharm Solutions division of EMD Millipore. And specifically, I can tell you that EMD Millipore is a story rooted in innovation, and specifically with deep roots here in Massachusetts. I was thinking on the drive in this morning that back in 1954, a very small company down the road in Watertown, Massachusetts, opened its doors. And over the next 56 years, Millipore Corporation pioneered the use of membrane filtration and its applications in hundreds of different methodologies. And over the course of that time, through expansion and acquisition, grew into a $1 billion life science company. As many of you know, back in 2010, Millipore was acquired by Merck KGaA, again with very deep roots, can actually boasts that it's the oldest pharmaceutical company in the world, founded back in 1668. EMD Millipore is a division of Merck and has its worldwide headquarters here in Massachusetts. So again, continued dedication to Massachusetts. In partnership with its customers, EMD Millipore provides solutions for research, development, and production capabilities to customers worldwide. We operate in 64 different countries, have 10,000 employees and 40,000 products. The way we're currently organized is we have three business units: bioscience business unit, which is dedicated to helping life researchers enable them to find new therapeutic targets. a Lab Solutions business unit, which dedicates itself to providing lab products to industrial and to biopharmaceutical and to academia worldwide. And myself, I'm with the Process Solutions business field, which side by side with our customers, we help develop and manufacture life-saving therapeutics that many of my panelists here today actually produce. It's a noble mission indeed. The value proposition for the Process Solutions group that I represent is to help our customers improve productivity, minimize risk, reduce complexity, and help to be a cost-efficient organization. Finally, as far as investment in Massachusetts is concerned, we have actually spent over $140 million over the last 10 years, primarily in the New England area, and I would say the majority of that in Massachusetts.
So, good afternoon. My name is Joanne Beck, and I work for Shire Human Genetic Therapies in Lexington, Massachusetts. So Shire HGT is a part of Shire, the bigger company, which is based in the UK. And it's interesting to me that Shire PLC is actually very focused on addressing unmet medical needs, but all their products are mostly small molecules, and it outsources all the manufacturing, excuse me. While Shire HGT, which was previously known as TKT and was based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, is developing and manufacturing enzyme replacement therapies, which are all biologics. And it's all in-house manufacturing. So I'm just trying to put it into context of this biomanufacturing discussion. Our presence in Massachusetts, we have currently moved the majority of our research, all of our research, and the majority of our manufacturing over in Lexington, brand new facility. Actually the building, process development, is brand new. We just moved in by the end of February of 2012. We have a facility in Alewife, Cambridge. All our R&D, clinical affairs, regulatory affairs, and all of technical operations, including all the manufacturing, is located in Massachusetts, and that was a conscious choice to stay and grow in Massachusetts. And the plan is to continue to grow our product base in Massachusetts.
Hello, I am Mark Trusheim, Biomanufacturing Executive in Residence at UMass Dartmouth. I've been working with the University of Massachusetts system on advancing biomanufacturing since about 2004, when I was a board member and interim president of the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. The University of Massachusetts has perhaps one of the world's largest collections of biomanufacturing capabilities of any university in the United States, if not the world. And it's grown tremendously over the past decade through very creative state, industry, and academic action. It's actually in 5 different locations in various campuses across the UMass system and across the Commonwealth. In the north, at UMass Lowell, our interactions at the MBC actually began with Dr. Carl Lawton's Massachusetts Biomanufacturing Center there, which focuses on process development, now analytics, and also characterization. The UMass Worcester Med School runs a stem cell bank, which my scientist friends always get upset when I say that's stem cell manufacturing, but that's essentially what stem cell banking is, and generating, in essence, the new protocols for our next generation of products. There's UMass Biologic Laboratories, sort of in the hub, if you will, in the Boston region, which is the world's only publicly owned, nonprofit, FDA-licensed manufacturer of vaccines and other biologic products in the United States. And it's been in operation since the 1890s, actually. Out at UMass Amherst out in the west, there's a lot of biofuels biomanufacturing going on. So that's really the outpost, if you will, of ag biomanufacturing as opposed to more medicinal. And then I'm mostly involved recently with UMass Dartmouth, which has 2 capabilities, a small CGMP facility as part of the National Botulinum Center, And then many of you may have heard about the new Massachusetts Accelerator for Biomanufacturing, a preclinical GMP-like scale-up facility that's now under construction. So UMass has really emerged out of its roots as a public land-grant university, and this enthusiasm from its faculty has grown with that of the industry here, and a lot of state support through both the 2006 economic stimulus bill and then the governor's $1 billion life sciences initiative to really expand and grow through all of this. As evidence of how it's growing, there's booths in the bioprocess area, not for one, but for two actual UMass facilities. Both UMass Biologics as well as the MAB are both there, staffed with people like Alex Fowler we're happy to have down from UMass Dartmouth on the education programs, George Katchen here from UMass Lowell as well, and Bill Thomas is often here, and he's probably in the booth doing deals right now. So why is UMass in Massachusetts? Well, it would be kind of funny to have UMass in Vermont. But realistically, and more to the point, universities both create their environments and reflect the strengths within them. And I think UMass's focus on biomanufacturing is both a credit to its faculty, but also a credit to all the work that has been done in industry and the rest of the region. And if you have more to talk about as well, there's Dr. Sung-Kyun Yoon here from UMass Lowell who can talk to you about the capabilities up north. So thanks for letting me tell you about UMass and biomanufacturing.
Hi, I'm Ralph Lambalot. I'm Division Vice President for Biologics Development and Manufacturing Launch with Abbott Laboratories. And I'm based out of our Abbott Bioresearch Center located here in Worcester, Massachusetts. We employ about 750 scientists, engineers, and other folks who support our discovery, development, and commercialization of biologics. We're in Massachusetts. We were brought to Massachusetts initially by BASF Bioresearch Corporation back in 1989 and actually set up shop here in Cambridge and identified the Massachusetts area primarily because of its rich, deep, and broad talent pool, as well as the proximity to all of the universities and medical research institutes. We selected the Worcester location because at the time, or a few years prior, Governor Michael Dukakis had set a grant for establishing a biotechnology research park in Worcester directly across the street from UMass Medical Center, which now is part of the Mass Life Sciences Center for seeding new companies and launching new companies. So I think having our site there then as BASF, and then subsequently acquired by Abbott, has provided a very strong foothold for large pharma within the area to help support the growth of small companies out in the Worcester area. And if you take a look at the Mass Life Sciences webpage, you see the progress that they've made over the course of their tenure in establishing and launching new companies. So it's a great success story. I think it's a little known fact that Massachusetts is the home and the birthplace of what is now the largest biotherapeutic in the world, and that's Humira. So it was discovered by BASF scientists back in the late 90s and was taken through clinical trials through the early 2000s and launched in 2004 from the Worcester plant. It since then has been commercialized, and while the launch manufacturing occurred right there in Worcester, we've since established a commercial manufacturing facility down in Barceloneta, Puerto Rico, and if that wasn't enough, have expanded the manufacture of Humira to places like Spain and now Singapore at very large scale. So I think it serves as a really good model for what this state and this region does incredibly well, and that is not only the discovery, but the development and the deployment of technologies out throughout the world. And I think if we can continue on with that in Massachusetts, we'll continue to have a great story to tell.
Okay, and Paul Logue from Genzyme.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Logue from Genzyme. We're a Sanofi company. Genzyme was acquired by Sanofi back in April 2011, so I'll touch a little bit more on that. I joined Genzyme in November 2009 and then came here to the US in January of this year, so I'm a very recent arrival to Massachusetts. One of the great attractions in coming to Massachusetts, quite honestly, was the opportunity to work for Genzyme. I've spent 20 of my 30 years in this industry in manufacturing, making biopharmaceuticals, but I think the chance to come and work in one of what I regard as one of the great hubs of the world when it comes to biomanufacturing, which is what Eastern Massachusetts and Boston is, was probably a chance too big to resist. So in a sense, I feel it's in some ways completes my career by coming to this area, rounds my skill set. I've been here since January, so I don't have a vast amount of local knowledge, I have to say, but I mean, I can certainly speak to Genzyme's presence here in Massachusetts. I see Mark Bamford, a former employee of Genzyme, very well versed in the ways of Genzyme here in the audience. But Genzyme's had a presence here for almost 30 years. It has very, very deep roots in the community. Has operations in Framingham, of which I head up. It's got operations in Alston, it's got commercial operations, R&D, science, a big footprint here in Massachusetts. Within Genzyme's industrial affairs operations, we have approximately 5,000 people globally, located in 11 facilities. But if we narrow the focus back to Eastern Massachusetts, we have coincidentally 5,000 people locally in the Genzyme Sanofi network employed in the region. Of those, 4,500 or approximately 4,500 are what I would describe as legacy Genzyme people, so about 500 are Sanofi employees. Of that 4,500, probably 2,000 are still directly involved in manufacturing and operations. So we have very deep roots in the community. I think Genzyme is certainly one of the pioneers of perfusion-based, microcarrier perfusion-based cell culture, which in its own way is a form of continuous manufacturing for cell culture, which we'll, I think, touch on later. I guess we have a very proud legacy as far as we're concerned. A number of our flagship products are manufactured here in Massachusetts. Cerezyme being one of them, Fabrazyme being another. So if you look at the reasons why Sanofi acquired Genzyme, certainly is a host of good reasons. I mean, it's an entry into the rare diseases arena. It got Sanofi more expertise in the complex world of biomanufacturing. But I think the third and maybe just as important reason was it got Sanofi a significant foothold in Boston, in Massachusetts, with everything that all the other panelists have talked about in terms of access to education, access to excellent academic institutions, research, all that goes with that. So I think that's really was the icing on the cake from a Sanofi perspective. So thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Let me turn now to the first question that I'd like us to address, and that is global trends in biomanufacturing. There are a number of adjectives that are being used to describe biomanufacturing today. Dynamic, innovative, exciting, and I suspect for those who've been in this industry for a while, those might not have been the adjectives used 20 plus years ago. Lumbering dinosaur might have been what might have been used. But Ralph, maybe you could speak to broadly what you see as some of the global trends in the industry.
Okay. So before talking about, I think, more recent trends, I think it's good to reflect on the broader timeline and what we see here today as evidenced by bio. If you go back to the mid-70s, there were a team of scientists at MIT and Harvard that were banned from doing recombinant DNA research by the city of Cambridge because of fear of creating some sort of superbug that would get out into the environment. Real fears, and there are many regions that have gone through similar deployments of the technology. But contrast that today now with what we see here today at Bio 2012. The world wants biotechnology, and they all want it in their backyard. So you can view that as, within Massachusetts and within the Boston-Cambridge area as a threat, or you could take it for what it really is, and that's a great opportunity. So here in the region, we train and educate the world's scientists and engineers and send them out to all the corners of the earth to do great things. We discover, develop, and deploy new technologies to sometimes very remote areas to improve the human condition. And we continue to evolve ourselves here locally to stay abreast of new technologies, to invent new technologies, whole new industries and whole new fields like we see here with biotechnology today, some 35 years later since that ban in Cambridge. So I think on a mega scale, it's been incredibly vibrant and now I'd say explosive in its changes. So I think the narrowing that time span down to maybe what I've seen since Bio in 2007, which I think was the first one that I actually attended. The global theme is still there. Countries are still coming to Boston and looking to identify opportunities for partnering, for collaborating, not just with new molecules, but with new technologies. And if I could point to one great case study that I think serves as a good model of what Massachusetts can continue to do better, it was a talk I saw at the Bioprocess Zone over on Monday, where it was Accelerex and WPI speaking about partnerships that they've established with 3 different countries, one with Russia, another with Brazil, and another with Africa, actually, for vaccines. And so working in collaboration with a firm that was partnering them with these local governments, WPI has been training employees from these regions to be able to implement these new technologies. They've been getting trained locally here at one of our local companies, Accelerex, for learning about the technology and how to implement it. And they're going out now and deploying biotechnology to each of these regions to begin supporting in-market biomanufacturing. So I think that trend is something that we can continue to capitalize on and continue seeking those opportunities for partnership and collaboration, all the while staying abreast of what the next technology will be.
Right. Speaking of some of the next technologies, Paul, maybe you can comment on continuous manufacturing. Is what you've been doing in Genzyme with that.
I guess we view our perfusion-based technology using microcarriers as a form of continuous-based manufacturing. Our cell culture phase runs anything from 50 days to 100 days, and we harvest every single day. As I look at the future of even that, and I think I look back 20 years, everyone in this industry 10 years ago talked about how much reactor capacity they had. That was the game was bigger is better. And I think we're going to see a very quick evolution in biomanufacturing the way we have seen in traditional small molecule, where there's less and less blockbusters out there, more personalized medicine, more niche busters, and the days of building $500 billion facilities out of stainless steel just aren't tenable anymore with the size of products that are coming down the pike. And I think there's kind of a perfect positive storm coming in a way. If you look at the way QBD is evolving and the design space we're creating to operate in, we look at how analytics are developing in terms of helping us understand our molecules. I think the concept that the concept that the product is the process is becoming aging. The concept that you can't understand bio the way you can understand small molecule is no longer tenable. Maybe for some of our older existing molecules, I think that will continue for quite some time, but as we evolve new molecules, I think we're going to find the days of investing $500 million to build a facility just are not tenable. I think the way to keep it onshore is smarter, smaller, better. The best analogy for me is the mini mills battle that has gone on with big steel, got offshored because it was high labor content, low knowledge. This industry is low labor content and high knowledge. I think as we continue to evolve and innovate, I actually think to your point, I think we shouldn't fear the rest of the world. I think I'm an Irishman here in America, but I'm now wearing my America Inc. hat.
You are welcome.
I'm welcome, and I think we can fend off just about anybody through innovation and continue to evolve.
Thank you, Paul. That's great. Joanne, maybe you can speak to Shire's work with single-use technologies?
Yes, so I think it's a good segue that Paul gave to Shire's approach, discussing the whole issue of building enormous stainless steel facilities and the cost of that, but also the time that it takes to build a facility. So our facility out in Lexington, it's I think the first facility that is commercially approved, and it's disposable at the commercial scale bioreactor. So the facility has right now 2 2,000-liter bioreactors, and it took about 3 years from start to finish to complete. It costs just about $200 million, which I think is a very reasonable price compared to the cost of a stainless steel facility, and it's 180,000 square feet. So, of course, it has to fit your production platform, and in our case, we don't have microcarrier culture, but we do have perfusion culture. So the 2,000-liter scale is a very good scale for us. It works for enzyme replacement therapies. The biggest advantage outside of cost, I think, is the speed at which you can introduce more additional capacity into the plant and build identical plants if needed, where you can transfer technology. And just to frame this a little bit more, rare diseases are what I found out, I'm pretty new to the field as well, they're very, very personal diseases. There's very small patient populations compared to other diseases. And you get to know the patients and the patient advocacy groups. So there's a lot of pressure once a drug is discovered to bring it as quickly as possible to development. And there's a lot of risk whether this drug is going to work. There's not enough time between phase 1 and actually a phase 3 and commercial introduction. So speed is extremely important in our field. And I think the single-use technology has given us this big advantage. In my department, at process development, we have the scaled-down models, and the scaled-down models are completely scalable. I mean, everything we develop, the design space work that we do in development is applicable to the larger scale. And that's also important because, again, in the rare disease area, we don't do hundreds or tens of runs to get to phase 3 and commercial. We need to do a lot of our process development work and process understanding work during phase 3 and even after the products have been approved and are commercial. So this is, I think that the disposable technology, the single-use technology has really facilitated this.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm now going to ask Vin to comment. Vin is speaking from the perspective of a vendor, technology supplier, and interestingly, in this industry, they're a critical part of the innovation ecosystem. And the vendors can often, through working with customers, really drive a lot of the innovation that happens in this industry. So Vin, maybe you could comment on Millipore's role within the region here.
Sure. Thank you. I mean, I can say again that everyone at Merck Millipore, EMD Millipore, considers it a noble mission to help our customers develop life-saving therapeutics. And actually, we've seen the trend too. Once upon a time, capacity was king, and now it's certainly being small and flexible and rapid. And toward that end, we've invested in additional R&D facilities and also in Danvers, Massachusetts, in building a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant to produce single-use assemblies and systems. And working with our customers, we know that we need to help them get through the early phases quickly. We have about 600 or 700 technical resources in the field to help our customers go from process development through scale up. And at the same time, the other trend we're seeing is that a lot of customers are now taking processes that they may manufacture or develop at one site and now approach an emerging market. So process transfers is another huge issue for many of our customers, and we deploy globally to try to provide that seamless integration. So again, it's a noble mission, and we pride ourselves on being able to help our customers get to market quicker.
Finally, Mark Trusheim, maybe you could speak about the role of the universities and colleges, et cetera, in part of this innovation system.
Be happy to. So universities, not surprising, are about how do we educate, how do we invent, how do we translate, and increasingly, how do we collaborate through all this, right? And education in biomanufacturing is more than just the undergraduate and graduate degrees. As you've heard from Ralph to my left and some of the other examples, there's a lot of education going on with existing workforces and moving forward. The technology changes, the universities help continue that education process going forward, and that we hope to continue to do that for many years to come. And we do that now increasingly in collaborative modes, right? UMass Lowell, UMass Dartmouth teaching similar classes together, exchanging materials, working with WPI very much in doing a number of those kinds of inventions, and facilitated by the state through the Mass Life Sciences Center grants and other things to enhance those education facilities, increasingly important. Invention goes Without further mention, as Ralph talked about, many of the technologies were invented here in Massachusetts, and we're continuing to work on new technologies, both independently and often again in collaboration. UMD Millipore and UMass Lowell work on a number of new technologies together and continue to push those forward. And you've also heard us now talk about translation, right? That the new facilities at UMass Dartmouth and Mass Biologics are helping take those inventions and really move them out into real practice to help particularly small companies bridge that valley of death, if you will, or that translation gap from benchtop to commercial scale. And increasingly, universities have a role to play in that. So educate, invent, translate, and increasingly collaborate with all of our friends in industry, with all of our other universities, and with the state as well. That's been increasingly important.
Thank you. Well, I think it's obvious that there are a lot of exciting trends going on in this industry, and a lot of them play to the strengths of this region. If we think about the sweet spot here, beyond the research and discovery, which is well known globally, we're talking about early stage process development, we're talking about the launch of products, and we're even talking about commercial production for those specific niche products that make sense here. I want to turn our discussion now to what we're doing in the state and what we could be doing in the state to retain and grow our position as a leading center for biomanufacturing globally. And I think everyone will have a perspective on this from the work you do on the ground here to what you see other countries and other regions doing. So maybe I'll start with somebody who's seen what other countries and other places are doing. Paul, if there's anything you think that's important in terms of how you retain and grow the industry.
If I could just pass on that for the moment, Elisabeth. I mean, I feel I haven't been here long enough to comment on that piece. Yeah.
Okay, Ralph, you've always obviously thought about this in some ways.
Yeah, so what I think we've been doing exceptionally well is attracting companies to the region. And we saw this happen with Novartis relocating its R&D headquarters to Cambridge. Pfizer has increasingly a larger and larger presence here in the region. We have AstraZeneca, of course, Abbott's come in, Shire is here. So there's just a continuous entry of companies into the area, which I think is really strengthening the local pool. And that's reinforcing what was already here and what attracted them in the first place. So companies like Genzyme, like Biogen IDEC, like Genetics Institute, which ultimately attracted Pfizer to the area, I guess, through acquisition of Wyeth. So it's that attraction. We've got that great nucleus, that great core, and I think it's positioned us to where we are today, Liz, to be able to quote the stats that you're able to quote about how strong the industry is in Massachusetts and the New England region. But we want to continue that, right? So I think it's a role of stewardship, and we certainly see the support of the governor, as he was here the other day, reinforcing, and I guess today too, I missed the announcement though, with his support for biotechnology and that $1 billion grant that came out about 5 years ago, and really seeing the impact of that sort of funding within the area. So it's the funding that's going to spawn the newer technologies, these high-risk, high flyers that at first will look like they're long shots, like DNA, recombinant DNA research might have been in 1976, but ultimately can lead to the spawning of whole new industries and markets.
Thank you. Mark Trusheim?
So, building on what Ralph has talked, it's about communicating our strengths, right? We're so focused often on our incredible R&D strength that we forget to mention to the world that we're in Massachusetts and New England, the world's largest concentration of biopharmaceutical manufacturers anywhere in the world. Liz has been not wanting to cite her own research, which has shown some of this because of her modesty, but I'll shout it for her, right? That there's tremendous strength here, not just in overall capacity, but we have about double the number of actual companies or entities that are manufacturing here. It's not just one or two large ones. It's many, many people participating. We don't communicate that as well as we might. And then that leads to connections. It's been incredible seeing with the support of the Mass Life Science Center and Mass Tech Collaborative, we've pulled together a biomanufacturing roundtable, that there's just been tremendous connections being laid, not just between companies, but between companies and universities, amongst the universities ourselves, WPI, Tufts, Northeastern's Barnett Analytical Lab, the UMass system I've talked about, tremendous connections that we need to continue to grow and deepen. And of course, all of the education and workforce piece. This is a continuous learning industry. You've heard about the tremendous technology changes that have happened and will continue to happen, both in processes as well as the types of products. We're going to have new generations of products coming forward, more cellular-based products, and we'll have to learn how to manufacture those as well. So connections, workforce, and communication. We've hidden our biomanufacturing under a bushel a bit in New England, and it's time to tell the world, and hopefully this is part of it, here today on the big screen.
Joanne, you've been working for a long time in the field, both in workforce training, et cetera. Do you want to say something?
So, yes, I mean, Ralph and Mark put it very well. I guess, you know, I think Massachusetts is really, in this area, is very special in that it has this amazing network of academic institutions, companies that manufacture, companies that produce materials for us. And it doesn't stop at the Harvard and MIT and Tufts and UMass, et cetera, but it goes all the way down to the high schools and the interactions that the companies and educational institutions have with the high schools. It reaches all the way down to the high school students that are either in, you know, the regular high school, the vocational high schools, the technical high schools. The Tech High School in Worcester is an amazing place. And we have a lot of needs in biomanufacturing or in fully integrated biotechnology companies, and they span kids that have just graduated from high school with specific skill sets to PhD scientists. And I think Massachusetts is the right place. It's created this amazing environment. I think a lot of the recent initiatives in the past 5 years have put the industry in touch with all this. Mark and I have met, you know, I don't know, tens of times over the past decade. So I think if we continue on this, and the local government, I mean, Mayor Menino has been a tremendous supporter. Governor Deval Patrick is a tremendous supporter of biotech and growth in this area. So if we continue on this to support with funding and maybe some reduced taxes as an incentive, we'll continue to grow.
Okay, I'm going to turn to Paul right now because Paul comes from Ireland. He knows something about taxes. So Paul, maybe you have something to say.
So, and these are personal remarks, not representing Genzyme or Sanofi, but I spent a lot of time in the really fairly deeply knowledgeable about the foreign direct investment environment, what drives companies to make investment in regions and localities. I mean, Ireland probably is one of the top 2 or 3 destinations in the world where multinationals in both traditional pharma and biopharma invested in the last 20, 30 years. In a sense, as I look at this, and as again the world evolves, tax is only one element of a decision to invest. And probably at this stage, I would say it is certainly no longer the number one. There are many, many low-cost and low-tax regions in the world now. I think what companies really are looking at is where can I find excellence in innovation? And it's not even about countries anymore. People are now investing in regions and cities. I mean, it's not just in this industry. A global trend is the cities and regions are going to be the winners. They will be the winners because of the people, the education. Everything we've talked about here today is what make regions winners. It's not ultimately, I mean, government policy can be influential, and certainly a lowering the tax wouldn't be unhelpful. But I think we should have nothing to fear as a region. I think we should realize the strengths we have and make the most of them, as opposed to looking over the fence and saying we need to do something that others, quite honestly, can do better than we can anyway in tax and cost.
That is a great perspective, Paul. And I think we often talk about the regional innovation system or the ecosystem we have here. And we've got a very rich one, and the challenge for us is to always improve it and make it work better for all of us. Vin, do you have anything you want to add to this topic?
Sure, I would just actually definitely support all the other statements, and I think that Massachusetts is a very special place to be. Certainly from our perspective, it's a super cluster of innovative companies. It's somewhere we want to invest as EMD Millipore. I'm looking at the head of our R&D organization, David Beatty over there. We've spent $50 million over the last 7 to 8 years investing there. And at the same time, up the street in Danvers, Massachusetts, state-of-the-art facility for our single-use manufacturing. And I think it's collaborations, collaborating with our wonderful customers and also with education such as UMass, a real partnership and a real magnet for talent. It's someplace that we can find a lot of good people to help add to the lifeblood of this industry.
Great. I think we have all of possibly 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and I'm going to open it up for any questions in case anybody from the audience would like to ask something of the panel. Anyone? Anyone? No. All the questions have been answered. That's good to know. This is great. All right, well, I'm going to just close by saying that I think, like Mark suggested, perhaps a decade ago or more, this industry was not particularly well understood or celebrated in this region, but that has changed dramatically. And I also want to acknowledge the Mass Life Sciences Center for its support of the Massachusetts Biomanufacturing Roundtable. The Roundtable is a way for bringing together both the academic institutions and the industry. And as a non-engineer, I can tell you that there's just an incredible energy and let's do something sort of environment with a room full of engineers. And I think it's been a great asset to this group and to the state as a whole. But as we heard, there's a lot of trends, a lot of dynamism in this industry, and one would think that that means a global industry heading off to global shores. In fact, it means there's a lot of opportunity in this region here, and we're really leading the way as it stands. So thank you very much to our panels, and thank you to all of you for coming.